So this girl says something weird happened to her. The weekend came and her best friend spent the night at her house. They spent most of the night talking about paranormal stories and their own experiences, and then they started listening to La Mano Peluda. While listening to that, they said that they both started feeling really weird and scared, and they ended up turning it off and just agreed to go to sleep. Mind you, that was the weekend, and then Monday came. The girl says that she's home alone and she hears her friend's voice calling her from another bedroom in her home. She thought to herself that was really weird, but she gets up, goes to the bedroom where she heard her friend's voice, and nobody is in there. So 2 days pass, and again she hears her friend's voice. She hears her friend call her name and say, "Hey, come." Again, she gets up, goes to the room where she hears her friend's voice, and there's nothing in there. Another week comes, and again she hears her friend's voice, but this time it's stronger. This time she actually responds back like, "What?" And she gets up, she goes to check, there's nothing there. There are people who believe that when entities want your attention and they realize that they've got it, it is now hard to let go and you are making them stronger. The following day after she experiences this, she is sitting on her bed and her bedroom door opens. It is her best friend at the door about to walk in, and she screams so loud and closes her eyes, and when she opens them back up, she's gone. She gets her phone, dials her best friend's number, and her friend picked up the phone. She tells her friend on the phone, "Hey, I need to talk to you. Something weird is happening." And when the weekend came, she tells her the story. Remember that weekend where we stayed the night and we were listening to scary stories and listening to La Mano Peluda, and then we got scared? Well, that following Monday, I heard your voice, but it sounded far away. This week, it was a lot stronger, and I talked back to it, and then it appeared in front of me, and it looked like you. There was something really eerie about her though, and I knew it wasn't you, and that's why I needed to tell you. And she asked her friend, "Has anything happened to you since that day?" And her friend was like, "No, nothing." And she's like, "What? That's so weird. Why is it happening to me?" So the following Monday, she gets a phone call from her best friend. "Hey, oh my god, you're not gonna believe this, but I think I just heard your voice in my house. Was it you?" And she's like, "No, it wasn't me. I haven't gone to your house. I'm at home." And the girl who this had already happened to, she was like, "Please tell me you're pranking me. Like, I cannot deal with this right now." And her friend is like, "No, it sounded just like you described, a little far away." By this point, her best friend had heard her voice for the second time, and it was just a little bit closer, but without even thinking about it, she responded to the voice. She said, "What do you want? Just leave me alone." And in that very moment, because of what her friend had told her happened, she knew that she screwed up and she was about to see something that looked like her friend. She was so scared, so in that moment what she did is she went and told the story to her guy best friend. After that, nothing happened in her home, and she didn't end up seeing her friend the same way her friend saw her and got really scared. It was almost as if whoever listens to this story starts experiencing these paranormal things.
I have a scary story time for you. This time last year, these two girls, best friends, one of their dads sells their camper van, and somebody is going to have to drive the camper van from one side of the UK to the other side of the UK. And the girls, even though they're 19, they volunteer as tribute. They think it sounds really fun and they're going to do a bit of sightseeing. So off they go. They're going to drive there and then they're going to fly home. As soon as they set off, like nothing is smooth sailing. It's like this car is literally cursed. They get a flat tyre, they get lost, they hit loads of traffic. So they end up nowhere near where they need to be. And they are both absolutely exhausted. And by this point, it is like early hours of the morning. And so they both decide, why don't we just pull over, have a nap, tomorrow's a new day. If anyone has a problem with us parking here, they can just come and knock, move, you're in the way, or somebody's not happy with them parking there. So they pull over into this road, and by this point they have been driving for hours, and so one of them needs to use the toilet, and they find a little area where they can do their business, and both of them immediately feel like they're being watched, but it's a well-lit area, and so they brush it off. They get back into the caravan and they turn the lights off, and they're trying not to freak each other out, but both of them feel like they can see the shadows of somebody walking around the outside of the camper van, but they're too scared to pull the curtains back. Eventually that stops and they just think maybe it was teenagers, and so they finally fall asleep. But they wake up to the sound of somebody trying to get in to their camper van. This person is wiggling the locks, so they rush to the front and they pull the curtain back, and there is a man standing there smiling in at them. So both of the girls are kind of miming to this man like, is everything okay? And this guy, he doesn't even reply to them. He's just smiling at them, wiggling the the door handle. They're trying to tell themselves that it's probably just like a disgruntled resident and they don't want this camper van parked outside their house. Look at their phones and they have no signal. So they start to scream at the man to leave them alone, but he doesn't. He just takes a step back from the camper van, so he's like a meter away. He just stands there staring and smiling, and they're so freaked out. They try and start the van, but it won't start, and they can't make any calls to any family because they've got no signal. So eventually they get so freaked out that they actually call the police, and the police tell them, whatever you do, don't get out of the car. He can't get into you, just stay in there, we're going to be there soon. But this guy, he doesn't seem bothered at all, that he can fully see and probably hear that the girls are on the phone to the police. He just stays there, tapping his fingers, giggling at the girls. Eventually, when he can hear the sirens, he just drops whatever he's holding and he runs off. And the police never find him, but they do find a knife. And that's what he was dragging around the outside edge of the camper van. No idea if that's true. It seems very dramatic, but I really enjoyed reading it. It scared me, so I thought I needed to tell it here.
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then, you want to take it a step further, put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not capping though.
This is reason number 1 as to why you should always be very careful when inviting anyone into your home, even family. So for those of you guys who follow me on here, you already know that my father and I don't have the best relationship. Recently, I found out that he had a baby, so I reached out. We ended up reuniting. I met the baby and decided to invite them over to my house for dinner. Mind you, my home is extremely protected. So if anybody comes in with any type of negativity around them, they're not gonna feel well. So he comes over. The minute he walks in, he starts to become ill. He said he felt like he was gonna faint, that he didn't know what was going on. They ended up cutting their visit short and practically rushed out of the door. I didn't think much of it and just decided to go on with my day. The next day, which was on Sunday, I woke up in the worst possible mood. I couldn't understand why I was in such a bad mood. I had absolutely no reason to feel so angry, but something was just really bothering me. I decided to take the kids to go watch the new Spider-Man to kind of get my mind off of it. Once I left the house, I realized that I no longer felt like that anger. Like, it was gone and I felt fine. But the minute we went back home, I started to feel angry again. Decided to ignore it. I don't know why I keep ignoring things. Decided to ignore it, went about my day. That Monday I wake up, when I go downstairs, I notice that the house is dark. Like, there's this darkness around the house. My house is extremely light. My shades are always open. I don't like darkness. But again, busy with work, I kind of just get ready and go about my day. When I get home later on that day, the house has this weird, like, rotting smell. My kids can't smell it, but I can smell it, and it's bothering me. So I go around cleaning the house. I'm like bleaching, I'm scrubbing, I'm mopping. I'm like, where's that smell coming from? I even like deep clean the trash can, like in the inside, thinking maybe something spilled in there. I couldn't get the smell from like out of my nose. That night I go to bed and I end up waking up at exactly 3 a.m. So I'm like, fun, this is fun. I'm like getting chills even thinking about it. My mouth is so freaking dry. I go downstairs to get something to drink. When I go downstairs, I notice that the basement door is open. I never leave that door open. So I shut it, grabbed the water, and went back to my room. The minute I lay down, I'm paralyzed. This thing paralyzes me, and it shows itself. I'm like fighting back again. I'm not afraid of any of this stuff because I've been dealing with this stuff my whole life. So I'm pretty much laughing at it, telling it that it has no power, it needs to leave. I start to pray, and it's continuing to like hold me down. At one point, I'm able to break free and I like overpower this thing. I have one of those Stanley cups, the dupe, not the real one. I'm not spending $40 on a cup. Next to my nightstand, and I started to hit it in the head with it. Once I did this, it went away. I say my prayers and go to sleep. I wake up at about 6 a.m. and decide to go downstairs to get my coffee. When I go downstairs into the kitchen, I hear what sounds like something like fumbling in the basement, like something's falling over in the basement. And then I look and realize that the basement door is open.
Welcome to my sleepover. I hope you brought your nice PJs and hopefully you tuck your feet into your blankets because I'm about to scare the fuck out of you. I'm kidding. I don't think these stories are that bad. Okay, I'm lying. Some of them might be a little scary, but like, you're safe with me. Nothing to worry about.
You're safe with me. There's nothing to worry about.
Oh my god, I just scared myself. Okay, I'm sorry.
My mother was babysitting my daughter while I was at the doctor's appointment and said, "Oh no, Grandma, Mommy's not coming anymore today. She was in a bad accident. She can't come with us." I had indeed been in an accident that almost killed me at that exact time. None of my family had yet been notified. A father is laying in bed after just waking up. He grabs the baby monitor and walks to his desk in his office at home. He has his baby on the baby monitor and hears his wife singing to her. He cracks a smile as he hears his wife, "Go to sleep. Go to sleep," when suddenly the front door opens up and his wife comes in with groceries. Who the fuck is singing? I watched a few kids while their parents were at a movie. I put the youngest kid, 4, to sleep and watched TV till the parents came home. The next day, the parents called. According to the 4-year-old kid, I stood in the doorway and stared at him for a very long time, smiling. I was so confused, I didn't know what to say. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? When my nephew died unexpectedly, getting hit by a car, I knew my daughter would be devastated. They were best friends, almost inseparable. She knew that he had stayed in the hospital for a week or two, but she didn't know he had a rare chance of survival. "Honey," I walked in the bedroom. "Your cousin, I'm sorry. I trailed off. He sadly passed away." She then gave me a strange look. "Oh," she said, "I knew that, Mommy. He stood by my window last night. He died at 12:03 a.m. yesterday. He went and said goodbye."
My wife has been peeking at me from around corners and behind furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying. My wife Lynn and I have been together for 6 years and married for 11 months. Our entire history together has been very normal and never once have I ever noticed any weird behaviors or red flags. I can't stress enough how out of character this is for her. Lynn is very kind, intelligent, and thoughtful. She's always been the no-nonsense type of person. Being childish or trying to scare me is not something that she'd normally do. She doesn't even like watching horror movies. When we first started dating, she agreed to watch The Shining with me because she knew how much I loved horror. She was so scared that she didn't even make it through half the movie before we had to turn it off. She isn't into anything creepy and has never been into pranks. It's just not her cup of tea, and that's fine, but that's what's so strange about this. It's just so unlike her. I should also add that she's never had any mental health issues as far as I'm aware, and it doesn't run in her family. I know some people are able to hide their mental health problems, but in the 6 years we've been together, I think I'd have seen some sort of sign. 2 months ago, I was in the kitchen making myself some coffee before work. I was running a bit late that morning and I knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Dunkin' Donuts for my usual morning fix. I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could only see her eyes and a strand of her long dark hair hanging against the wall. The rest of her body was concealed behind the corner, and I nearly spilt my coffee when I saw her. "Geez, Lynn," I said, wiping a few drops of coffee off my pants, "you scared the shit out of me." She immediately popped out of view like a little kid that had been caught. I heard her scurry off towards the living room, and by the time I got to the front door, she was out of sight. It was really weird and just totally out of character for her, like I said, but I also found it funny that she was trying to be more playful and a little less serious. I shouted that I loved her and called her a weirdo. As I shut the door behind me, I heard her laughing. Her behavior was a bit odd, but it certainly wasn't something to call a priest over. I forgot about it by lunch, and by the time I got home, she was her normal self. I didn't bring it up, and neither did she, and life went on. The next incident happened 3 days later. It was around 2 a.m., and I had woken up to get a drink. I was standing at the kitchen island, jug of OJ in hand, when I felt a strong feeling that I was being watched. For whatever reason, I looked down at the floor and saw my wife's smiling face staring back. She was peeking at me from the other side of the island, staring up at me with wide, unblinking eyes and grinning like the Cheshire Cat. I screamed, I'll admit it, not out of irritation, but fear. For some reason, at that moment, I was scared. At the sound of my scream, Lynn scuttled backwards out of my view, her hands and feet smacking the tile floor as she hurried out of the kitchen on all fours. I didn't run after her, or even yell after her. I just stood there, frozen in shock, wondering what the F had possessed her to do that. It took me a little longer than I'd like to admit to go back upstairs, but I eventually did. When I got to our bedroom, Lynn was lying on her side asleep, or at least pretending to be. I stood there for a while, watching her breathing to be sure that she was really asleep. I had the feeling that she might jump out at me at the moment I got into bed, but she didn't. I climbed into bed and she didn't even move. Her breathing was soft and deep, and I was starting to wonder if I'd dreamt the whole thing. Come back for part 2.
Imagine going to a wedding full of people only to realize that these right here are not humans like us, and you're basically trapped in a room full of jinns. That's exactly what happened to this woman right here. Her name is Nora, aka the Beyonce of Kuwait. Yes, this story takes place in Kuwait, by the way. Nora was basically a famous singer there, okay? Her and her band used to sing traditional stuff in weddings. Another way to say it, she was like a celebrity there, okay? You call her for your marriage, she comes, she sings, and then she leaves with money. You're probably like, okay man, this sounds like an amazing job. I mean, imagine going to a marriage, having fun, people recognize you, people are a fan of you, and you get money for singing a couple of songs. No, it was amazing until a terrifying thing happened to her and made her quit her job and be traumatized forever. Now, before I tell you what happened, you know what to do. Save this video and come back to it at night so it's more enjoyable like that. One day, Nora got a call. She was like, man, should I pick up? I don't really work today. You know what? Let's pick up the phone. Hello? Oh, the person calling her was a woman, okay? And she basically said, hello? Is this Nora? The famous Nora? Oh, Nora basically responded, oh yeah, thank you so much, that's me, the famous Nora, yeah. The woman on the phone basically said, oh my god, thank you so much for responding, everybody loves you here. Can you please show up to my daughter's wedding tonight? So this is when Nora responded, oh, I'm sorry, like, I don't work today, I'm really sorry. The woman on the phone started begging her, okay? She was like, please, this is my only daughter, can you please show up tonight? She loves you so much. When Nora heard this from the woman calling, she was like, oh my god, these people are annoying. Okay, you know what? I'll make an exception for you. I want to see your daughter happy tonight. So, Nora ended up accepting, okay? The woman gave her the address and she told her to come, her and her band, at 10 p.m. Well, Nora and her band finally made it to the house at 10 p.m., okay? And before even entering, Nora was like, okay, I'm sorry, I did bring you here, but come on. I know that nobody works today, but we gotta do it for the love of the game. Her band basically responded, oh, come on, don't sweat it, Nora. You know, we want to make people happy, right? It's only a marriage after all, right? Nora and her band finally made it inside the house, and the first thing they noticed is that the house from the outside looks normal, right? But from the inside is something different. The house was really bigger than they expected, okay? And the decor was really noticeable, okay? Somebody did their job on the decor. You know, Nora and her band were amazed. They were like, wow, this is by far the biggest house we'll perform in. While the band was examining the inside, the woman came. Remember the woman who told her to come here in the first place? The woman who begged her to show up for her daughter, blah, blah, blah. Yes, she came. She was like, oh my god, Nora, I'm a big fan. And you know, she wanted to shake her hand. When Nora saw her, she was like, oh, what's up? How are you? Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. This is your daughter's wedding? Yeah, I'll tell you, it's about to be amazing. She shook her hand. Nora noticed something, okay? The woman's hand were dry, okay? And it was not moving. You know how humans' hand move? Her hand was not moving, and she could feel her bones. When she felt that, she started having a little doubt, okay? She was like, okay, I've never seen something like this before. I mean, okay, you know what? I'm not judging. And she was not trying to scare her band either. So she was like, okay, to the woman she was speaking, she was like, where do we perform? The woman responded, you see, we love you so much. We do appreciate you so much for coming. So we prepared everything. You do perform in that corner over there. You see it? Yeah. Oh, Nora responded, oh, okay, that's really sweet. You know, thank you so much. Yeah, let's go over there. Yeah, okay. See you there. In this corner right here, Nora and her band started performing, okay? And what a performance. Everybody was loving it. Everybody was shaking their heads, vibing like, Nora and her band, while singing, they were feeling the energy. They were like, yeah, okay, that's what we're talking about. That's the type of vibes we like. You know, See, while singing, Nora noticed a detail that she could have noticed from the beginning, but she didn't for a reason. It's almost like it was hidden from her. Why is everybody dressed in old clothes? Well, nobody was dressed in the typical wedding clothes of today, if you know what I mean. Everybody was dressed like the 17th century. So Nora was like, what the hell is going on? Nora told herself, okay, that's weird. You know, she kept singing. She was still giving some side eyes, but you know, she kept singing. I don't know the song she was singing. I wasn't there with her, but she was singing something like, I'm alone ashamed. What? I'm alone ashamed. Let me sing. See, meanwhile Nora was singing, one of her band members started tapping her shoulder. And you know, she's trying to communicate but sing at the same time. She was like, the band member who was trying to get her attention was the one playing guitar, okay? And he was like, look at their legs. Look at their legs. Nora was like, what do you mean their legs? Shape of, yeah. This is what Nora saw. goat legs, and she understood that from the beginning she was not with humans. Yup, she's singing with jinns. If you don't know what a jinn means, scary creature, I talked about him in my first post, go check it out. But when Nora saw this, she was in shock, but she kinda knew that something was wrong from the beginning, you know? Remember when she shook hands with the woman who invited her? Yup, in that moment she felt that something was not right. So Nora and her band kept performing, okay? They were not trying to get suspicious, but you know, their voices kept getting low, and they started thinking about this. Those are jinns, but they're in human forms. And you know, while thinking about this, they noticed something. It's midnight. One of her band members was like, hey yo, Nora, we should go. The vibe switched up, it's not the same anymore. These things right here are not even dancing, they're jumping and making weird noise. It's scaring me. You know, it's midnight, we should go. He said all that keeping his voice low. It doesn't matter because he's playing an instrument so nobody's hearing him. Problem is, in Nora's case, she can't talk, she's literally singing. And this is where she had to step up, talk to some of the jinns and told them that we should get a break. Oh, the woman who invited her in the first place, the jinn, came and she was like, Nora, I heard that you want a break, is that true? Nora basically responded, yeah, it's hot out here. And you know, we're kind of tired, so can we go in that room, please? Rest for about 5 to 10 minutes and then we'll come back. Jin basically responded, yeah, you can go. Now the band went to a small room, closed the door, and they're finally isolated from the rest. This is where Nora was like, nobody is getting out, I don't care. You see these creatures, they're turning crazy right now. It's past midnight, so they're turning crazy. Nobody's getting out unless you wanna. Band members basically responded, bro, do you want us to be stuck here forever or what? We should get out. Nora basically responded, look, the woman invited me at 10 p.m., right? I don't think that's a coincidence. She invited me because she can only show up in this form at night. Look, what I'm trying to say is we pretend to be playing and singing until the sunrise. Once the sun rises, boom, we get out. We don't look back. Now, the band came back to the main room and they are forced to sing and play instruments. But things kept getting worse. Because some of the jinns not only started making weird noises and jumping, they started tearing their hair with a part of their scalp and throwing it down on the floor. Imagine the band playing, seeing, being forced to see all this stuff happening in front of them, but they can't do anything about it. Now, they kept playing for about 5 hours straight, and some of the band members started feeling sick and they started throwing up, you know, after all they saw. You know, as soon as the clock hit 4 a.m., meaning sunrise, every jinn stopped. They literally stopped moving. After that, they stopped moving, the lights started turning off, and the place started falling apart. This is where Nora was like, okay, this is our sign to go. After a long run in the hallways, they made it. They got out from the house, and this was the house. If you didn't notice anything yet, hold on. This was supposed to be the house they were in. This is what they saw at 10 p.m. This is where they left at 4 a.m. You see the difference? They left and they were all this time in an abandoned house. What happened is that the jinns basically gave them the illusion that they were in this house right here. So the bands kept running in the streets just to make sure that there is nobody after him. And you know, after running for a while, they saw somebody. That somebody basically asked them, why the hell are y'all running? Is this a marathon? Or like, I don't. Nora and the band were like, whoa, don't talk to us. We know that you're a jinn. Stop talking to us. So that somebody basically responded and he was confused. He was like, what? What the hell are you all talking about? Nora and the band members realized that he's normal, he's a normal human being, and they were like, oh, okay, he's on our side, don't worry. You know, they started explaining to him what happened to them in this house. After hearing their story, he said something crazy. He said that this house right here has been abandoned before even he was born.
Oh yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
On the afternoon of July 18th, 1997, a man was driving down a road surrounded on both sides by trees in a rural part of Wisconsin called Douglas County. There were no other cars on the road, and so this guy was driving pretty fast. And as he rounded this bend in the road, something out the passenger side window on the side of the road in the grass caught his eye. He couldn't tell what it was, but it was a pretty big object, and after he drove right past it, he just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, whatever it was, it just seemed out of place. And so for whatever reason, this man felt compelled to actually stop and go see what it was. And so he slowed down and parked on the shoulder, he got out, and began walking along the road back in the direction of this object. And as he got closer, he began to see this object again in the shoulder of the road, and it was sort of obscured by grass and other things, so he couldn't see what it was. But as he got closer, he saw the object was pretty big, and it was all white. And as he took a few more steps and got within maybe 20 or 30 feet, he finally got a better look at this object, and he just froze. Because the object was a man wearing all white, a white suit, a white belt, white shoes, all white, and he was laying on the side of the road, just totally motionless. And for a second, the driver thought, maybe this guy is sleeping, but after taking only a few more steps and getting a totally unobstructed view at this guy, he saw there was a gaping hole in this man's chest. He was obviously dead, and so the driver turned around, ran back to his car, sped to the nearest house, and called 911. The next morning, a Douglas County detective named Stephen Long was sitting at his desk looking at the photos of the dead man in white. This murder case was less than 24 hours old, but already this was one of the weirder cases that this detective had ever been assigned to. The victim had pretty much immediately been identified because he was carrying on his person his wallet, and in his wallet was his driver's license, and so they knew who he was. But the man in white's identity actually made the whole case more confusing, not less. And Mark had no obvious ties to the area, so what was this rich guy doing 3 hours from home, dressed all in white, getting shot to death on the side of the road? Like, it didn't add up. The dead man was a 45-year-old millionaire named Mark Foster, and Mark lived 3 hours away in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and had no discernible ties to Douglas County, and so the detective was thinking, like, what is this rich guy doing here, dressed head to toe, all in white, getting murdered on the side of some local random back road? But things only got more confusing from there. After the medical examiner did Mark's autopsy, he told Detective Long that he had discovered a note inside of Mark's shoe. And the note just said, "Jack Frazier isn't here, but it's Jimmy Bailey? Or a lookalike? I hope I'm okay." Now, nobody, including Detective Long, had any idea what this note meant. It was far too cryptic. But when they ran Jack Frazier and Jimmy Bailey's names through their database, the police discovered that both of those men, one, existed, and two, they lived in Minnesota, same as Mark Foster. And so naturally, Detective Long began to suspect that maybe those two men were connected in some way to Mark Foster. Maybe they were involved in his murder, or maybe they were actually his killer or killers. He didn't know, but it was his best lead. So Detective Long decided he would just have to go to Minneapolis to try to find out more. A few hours later, Detective Long parked his car at the Minneapolis police station. He got out and walked inside the building. Waiting for him inside was the local detective who Mark had already spoken to. And so after meeting this detective, the two of them went into an interview room where Mark Foster's wife was waiting for them. And right away, Detective Long noticed that she was very pregnant and at least 15 or 20 years younger than Mark. But despite that, she seemed very composed. It would turn out she'd already been told about her husband's death, and she was basically resigned to the fact that she was here to try to answer questions to figure out what happened. And so the detective sat down and they began to interview her. And then when they brought up the note that was found in Mark's shoe, specifically when they said the two names that were on that note, Jack Frazier and Jimmy Bailey, when they said that, it triggered something in Mark Foster's wife. She immediately began to cry, and then in between sobs, she would tell the detectives that she knew who those two men were. She told them that she had previously had relationships with both of them before marrying Mark. And she said after she married Mark, Jack and Jimmy became very jealous. They didn't like the idea that she had chosen Mark over them. And so she had always felt like those two, Jack and Jimmy, sort of had it out for Mark as a result of this romantic rivalry. After the interview with Mark's wife ended, Detective Long began to think that, despite this case appearing on the surface to be very odd and confusing, that perhaps in reality, it was quite simple. Maybe Jimmy and Jack were so jealous of Mark that they killed Mark. I mean, based on what Mark's wife had just told them in the interview about them being romantic rivals of Mark, and also the fact that that note was in Mark's shoe and named those two men, it certainly seemed very possible. But over the next couple of days that Detective Long began digging into this theory, that theory fell apart. Because it would turn out Jack Frazier and Jimmy Bailey had absolutely airtight alibis. They simply couldn't have been the killers. Now, Detective Long was obviously frustrated. He felt like he really had it here. But he was not deterred. He decided his next move would be to try to better understand his victim. To this point, he had already interviewed a lot of Mark's friends and family, but something he had not done yet was simply go to Mark's house and have a look around. So Detective Long got a search warrant, and on July 29th, roughly a week after Mark was killed, Detective Long, along with another detective, pulled up in front of Mark Foster's large 2-story home in the middle of a quiet suburban neighborhood. Now, from the outside, the home looked totally ordinary relative to its neighbors. But once they got inside the house, it was anything but. The detectives made their way up to the front door and knocked, and a few seconds later, Mark Foster's wife opened up the door and let them inside. And right away, Detective Long is looking around, and he's seeing all over the walls on the first floor of the house are these graphic pictures and paintings of naked people. And then in addition to that, on some of the coffee tables and various surfaces on the first floor, right when you walk in, are all these pornographic magazines and books everywhere. And Mark's wife didn't acknowledge any of it. She acted like it was completely normal to have all this stuff right in the front part of your house. And so the two detectives are looking at each other as, Mark's wife is leading them on this tour through the first floor. And at some point, Detective Long just said, hey, Mrs. Foster, why don't you have a seat on the couch and you just let us take a look around your house on our own? And so she said, okay. She sat down on the couch, and then the two detectives, they left the living room, went back to the front of the house, and made their way upstairs. And once they got upstairs, they found the master suite, and there was all this bondage gear inside. There were leather straps attached to the bedposts, there was whips and handcuffs, there was also additional pornographic material in there. But, considering what the detectives had seen downstairs, this sort of felt on par for this house. And so after searching the other bedrooms and other rooms on the second floor and finding more pornographic material basically everywhere, the detectives found their way back to the hallway in the second floor, and they noticed there was a rope hanging down from the ceiling, and it was attached to the pull door that led to the attic. And so the two detectives, they walked over, they pulled the rope down, it revealed this fold-out set of stairs that came down from the attic, and once those were in place, the two detectives began climbing up. And once they got up there, they discovered that this attic was not a storage space like many attics are in American homes. Instead, this attic was a fully functional room that sort of resembled like a satanic dungeon of sorts. All the walls were totally jet black, and there were all these burned out candles all over the place and tarot cards littering the floor. And on the back of the attic, basically all the way on the other side, there was what appeared to be an altar that sort of overlooked the entire room. And on the altar were more candles, and there was a voodoo doll. It's totally creepy, and the two detectives are looking at each other like, what's going on here? And so the detectives, they climbed all the way into the attic, and then slowly began walking across towards the altar. And when they got close enough to actually see the altar up close, they just froze. Because sitting on the altar, in addition to the candles and the voodoo doll, were two business cards. Their own business cards.
You, yes you, I'm talking to you. You got 5 seconds to name the most beautiful woman celebrity you know. Alright, go ahead, I'm counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, finish? You got it in your head? Well, let me tell you. Alright, finish? Well, let me tell you that the woman you named is nothing compared to the woman I got right behind me in this picture. Meet Aisha Kandisha. We're just calling her Kandisha, okay? So, hey, but bro, what the fuck is that? It's not a woman? Yeah, I can see that. She's a creature from Morocco. She is one of the most interesting and scariest ones. Trust me. Oh yeah, we were talking about Morocco. Because everybody in Morocco know about the things she and the way she does it. If you remember well, I was talking about women. But why? Well, because Kandisha is a woman. Well, kind of. Okay, but why everybody is scared of her? I don't get it. Oh, because she can go from her original form to the most beautiful woman you ever see. Imagine with me a scenario that could happen. You're walking in the street, you saw a beautiful woman, you're just like, wow. So normally you want to talk to that girl, but the moment you approach, she... Hey yo, for real, that's your story? I can punch the hell out of her before even she moves. What you talking about? Now let me precise 2 things. When she drags you, it will be in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and mostly at night. Second, she is known for not having normal legs. Of the stories, she got goat legs. That means she's so fast. So now we know that she's so fast, she brings you in the dark, and it's her territory, the woods. The 3 things make it almost impossible to escape. That's what made her so popular in Morocco, and basically everybody was scared of her. What if you're not scared of her? What will happen then? Especially that everybody knew what was her weak point. It makes sense, think of it. When you're so problematic to someone, well, he'd find ways to bring you down. Oh, people in Morocco, since she was so popular, knew that she has a weakness, and her only weakness is fire. Coming back to my question, what if somebody is not scared of her, plus he's holding fire? Her only weakness. Let me tell you that this has actually happened, and it's one of my favorite stories about her. But before that, you know what to do. Save this video, come back to it at night so it's more enjoyable like that. Right, here's the story. Listen close. So Kandisha was in the wood. Quick reminder, she lives there. Suddenly, from very far, she sees a weird light. No, Kandisha, she's very smart. She transformed to a beautiful woman just in case somebody was looking for her. So she keeps walking towards the light. Bad news, the weird light was actually fire. But wait, there's a guy around here. Yes, and he's surrounded by fire. She's so confused, like what the fuck a guy with fire is doing in her area? And I agree with her. Remember I told you, she's very intelligent. So, just in case, she keep her distance. So the guy saw her and immediately asked her, yo, you're Kandisha, right? She's so confused. She's like, hey, yo, what the fuck? He's coming to my area and asking me if I'm Kandisha. Is he crazy? So she tries to play smooth. He goes like, who the fuck is Kandisha? Guy, he know what he's doing. So he goes like,
Come on, man, stop the cap. I know that you are conditioned. Still menacing for her. She has no clue what to do. She goes like, this motherfucker's pissing me off. He comes to my area and put a pressure on me. He thinks he playing Uno reverse. That's it. Well, I'ma show him. So she goes like, what if I'm Kandisha? What you gonna do about it? This man is so brave. He goes like, actually, I have fire on me. So what you gonna do? Oh my god. Then he said, you know what? I'm not here to kill you, actually. So she's like, what? Actually, I'm here to find the truth. Actually, I don't believe in that bullshit they talking about. So do you really kill people? This is a very sensitive moment. Listen closely. She goes like, she responds, even if you knew the truth will actually change nothing. He insists because he knows that he's controlling the situation. So he goes like, man, if you told me, I'm not leaving. It's your choice after all. He goes like, oh my god, that motherfucker won't let me have peace unless I tell him. She responds, you know what? I'm telling the truth. He's like, okay, go ahead. Her story has so many details and historical facts that you need to focus to understand, okay? If you remember well, I was talking about Morocco. Well, it was for a reason. It's because Morocco and plenty of other countries were united. So they were so strong. They were so strong that they decided in year 711 to conquer both Spain and Portugal. Guess what? They succeeded. They called it Al-Andalus. Kandisha's family were living in this area. Quick history lesson. This was a religious war between Morocco, who was Muslim, and Portugal. I'm sorry, right here. Portugal and Spain were Christian. So the rest of Portugal and Spain was just this area, right? They knew if the things continue like that, they might be killed. Being Christians, they asked her from another Christian country who is from Al-Andalus area who are living their best life. So the Christians was like, hey, what are we doing? We need to get the land back. Guess what? After so many years of war, they succeeded. Those weren't good news for Kandisha's family, and that is why. So Christians got the land back. Muslims weren't getting the best treatment. Problem is, Kandisha's father, but he was a Muslim, so he only had two choices. Actually, three if you think about it. First option is, you're gonna stay as a Muslim, but you're gonna leave Spain and come back to Morocco. The second option is, you become a Christian and live in Spain. Third option, who is more of an obligation, you either choose between these two options. But the problem is, Kandisha's father didn't agree with any of those two options. He wanted to stay as a Muslim and stay in Spain, which was not possible. So they decided to take him, his wife, and Kandisha's sister, and they burned them in front of everybody. Remember Kandisha's weakness was fire? She is scared of fire because she has a child trauma when she seen her family burn. Remember the guy, the one who's listening to the story? He goes like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Say, hold on, I'm not finished. He somehow survived and came back to Morocco. She tells him, and yes, I kill people, but not all of them. The guy was like, oh yeah, what you mean? She responds by very shocking information. She said, you know what? I only killed Portuguese soldiers during the war. He goes like, why do you keep Portuguese soldiers? Historical fact, Morocco and Portugal once had a problem. They had a conflict. So Portugal soldiers were in the Moroccan territory, and she used to in the wood by transforming into a beautiful wood. So he goes like, okay, that's where the come from. Yeah, exactly. Guy is pretty much shocked by what he heard. So he goes like, she only cared to protect her country, and I gotta trust her. He goes like, you know what? I trust you, and I'm sorry for having fire in front of you. He was like, let me just turn off the fire. He did turn off the fire. Oh, I forgot to ask you, where the goat legs come from? Unfortunately, you never get the answer. Why? She him. That's crazy, but it leads us to two possibilities. The first, she didn't want her secret to be told to everybody. The second possibility, she invented the whole story just so he can trust her and turn the fire off so she can... What do you think?
Hey friends, if you want to hear something scary, don't scroll. So this story is about me and a girl who are not friends anymore, so I'm not going to use her real name. I'm going to refer to her as S in this story. So when I was 12 years old, I was living in a really small town where basically everybody knows everybody. And if you're familiar with small towns, you know that that means that, like, for the kids, there's not much to do. You have to go find your own fun, which usually results in you getting in trouble or doing something wrong. So honestly, a lot of the times, me and many of my friends would go on Omegle or Kick or... there was one more too, but I can't remember. But this particular day, I almost said her name. This particular day, S and I went on Omegle and we were talking to this guy, this really fucking weird guy. So we're talking to him and he was friendly at first, but then things went downhill really fast, as it does usually when a 12-year-old is talking to a grown-ass adult on a website such as Omegle. I'm so glad that that shit is banned. I don't have to worry about my daughter ever finding out about it. But anyways, we were talking like deeply with this man, and I was pretty confident in that because I was like, oh, it's just online. Like, there's no way he can like find out where we are. There's no way. Wrong, bitch. Anyways, the fucking, what made us hang up was when he was like, so how old are you girls? Blah, blah, blah. And we told him that we were 12 years old. And he said, ooh, I bet you guys are sexier in person. We were like, yeah. And then this motherfucker whips out his dick and just starts slonging it around in front of us and is like, you like that? We hung up so fucking fast. But little did we know that he actually already found our location. I don't know how. We were on her sister's computer. We were not supposed to be on her sister's computer. So I don't really know like what kind of location settings she had going on her computer. And it was back in the day too, where things were not as like securely locked down as they are now. So I'm assuming it was relatively easy for him to find out where we were from. So anyways, after we hung up, we thought that that would be the end of it. We like stopped going on Omegle for a couple weeks after that, and we were like, fuck no, we're not doing this anymore. But after that initial call with that guy on Omegle, we started to notice a new vehicle in our town, which is something that you do recognize in a very small town, in a very small community like we were in. Like I said, you know everybody when you live in a small town like that. You are a community. So we automatically knew that there was like a new vehicle in the town, and we were like, oh, okay, like somebody moved here, great, cool. Then we realized that this van, yeah, it was a black van, by the way. It was a black van, not like a regular creepy creeper white van. No, it was like a black van, and it was like one of those short ones. It didn't have windows, whatever. And the license plate was not from our state. I can remember that, but that was like normal for us because our town is one that like you have to cross through to get to one of the most famous mountains that we have in this area for skiing and snowboarding and whatever. So we were used to seeing out-of-state license plates. We didn't really think much of it until we started noticing that this van was following us around. It was everywhere we were. And we were kids that would always be outside. And if we weren't outside, we would be inside fucking around on the computers doing shit we weren't supposed to be doing. So whatever, we started noticing that this car was following us around, and we didn't want to say anything to the adults because we knew for fucking fact if we said something to the adults that they would cut us off from all contact, walking outside by ourselves and hanging out more like we always do. And we did not want that. We were like, yeah, we can handle it ourselves, whatever. Like whoever this is, that we're gonna beat them up, like whatever. And oh my god, I remember the first time I ever got a glimpse of who was in the driver's seat one day when he was actually like following us down a busy street. It was on Main Street, so like there was people around, and I'm sure that that's why he didn't do anything that day. But when I saw that it was the same guy we were talking to on Omegle a couple weeks back, I was in shambles. I was like, this is like panicking, trying to tell her that that's who it was. And at first she didn't believe me. She was like, you're just paranoid. Like there's no way that he'd be able to find out where we were. And for a while after she said that, I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like there's no way that he knows where we are. There's no way that it's the same guy. You're right. I'm just being paranoid. But then there was one day that we were walking home from the town pool, which was like not very far from her mother's house. So we were walking back to her mom's house, which was like off of a side street. So like you go down a side street, a paved side street, and then there's the dirt side street off of the side street. So like there's not very many people back there. And the side streets in that town are very windy too. So like even if there was a person, like they could be around the corner and they're not going to be able to see you from just like slightly around the corner. So we were walking home to her mom's house having a grand old time when here comes the fucking black van. We didn't even notice it. So we're like walking like do straight this way. Here comes the van from behind us, and then we're do and it fucking pulls up and cuts off the entire way of the dirt road that we're walking down to get to her mom's house. So I remember stopping, looking at her. It seemed like it was like 2 minutes of us staring at each other, but I think it was more like 2 seconds. Without saying a word to each other, we literally both booked it to the right as fast as we could. Because if you go right to where we were, it was like a wooded area that led to her mom's house, but it was like an unkempt wooded area. And we were walking home from the town pool. We had no shoes on. We were in our bathing suits. We were running through the woods, through the sticks, and I remember my feet were ripping. I could feel shit poking into my feet. It was so painful, and I wanted to stop, but I didn't want to stop and get fucking killed. I didn't want to experience the pain of being murdered. So anyway, once we got into her mom's house, we ended up locking all of the doors, all of the windows. Nobody was there at the time. Her parents worked a lot, and her siblings were older, so they were like always gone. Yeah, we were there alone, and after we locked up the entire house, we started looking out the window to like make sure that he was like not gonna come try to find us. And this motherfucker pulls into the driveway of her parents' house. Like, what if somebody was there? First of all, he probably knew that nobody was there because no cars were there, obviously. But like, he pulled into the driveway of her mother's house, and when we saw that, we were like, what the fuck, we gotta go hide. So we ran to the basement where her sister's bedroom was. It was like a weird setup in the basement. Like, her sister's room was like kind of locked away in the corner. Like, you could easily hide in there and like have nobody know that it was like a bedroom inside. So we were hiding in there for fucking hours, until we heard her stepfather come home. And even when he got home, we didn't say anything to him. We were just like, oh yeah, we were hanging out in so-and-so's room downstairs. And it was literally, we just went about our lives after that. We did see the black van a couple more times. Anyways, we did see the van a couple more times, but nothing like seriously bad happened again like that. And then after a couple more days, we never saw the van again, so I'm assuming he gave up. I'm hoping he didn't find another victim. I'm assuming he did because he was a fucking predator. But that's the time that my friend and I almost got kidnapped from a guy that we met on Omegle. Yeah.
Imagine finding out that your aunt is a demon from hell. I am back with another spooky story. We're gonna call the person who submitted the story Perry. Perry said that she submitted this story because she really wants to spread awareness. Okay, so Perry is the type of person who receives visions. She says that most people receive visions from heaven only or hell only, but she gets them from both. She says she had visions of Jesus telling her what to do, and even having conversations with him, and also with demons and the devil. Perry says for some reason when it's with Jesus, she's never seen his face clearly, but she says that the way Revelations describes him is exactly how he is. But she sees demons clearly and their messages are always misleading. So one day, as she's randomly preparing for bed, her aunt walks into her room randomly and looks deep into her soul and says, "Life only gets worse." Perry didn't think much about it. She just prayed and went to sleep. Well, that very night, Perry had a vision. She says her visions never really involve her family members, but this time it did. In her dream, she was in her mom's room, which, by the way, she was sleeping in because her room had a problem. The vision was basically her entering her mom's room right after her aunt said that life only gets worse. She saw several heads and creepy things that kept repeating, "Life only gets worse." Which made sense because as she was walking into the room before she fell asleep, she heard whispering, but she just couldn't make out what it was saying. But in her vision, she can hear them very clearly, repeating what her aunt had told her. So she immediately woke up and started looking around. And out of the blue, her aunt was in the window just staring right at her. She said, "I never screamed like that my whole life." Everyone woke up, came to her, and asked her, like, what is going on? But she was so traumatized she couldn't even talk about it. She definitely didn't want to stay in that house anymore. So her mom suggested maybe she should just go spend the night at her boyfriend's place. She loved that idea. She couldn't agree more. When she arrived at her boyfriend's place, she felt comforted and at ease, and she immediately fell asleep. She woke up in the morning feeling refreshed and more at ease. Stay with me now. After freshening up, she went to go eat breakfast with her boyfriend. At the table, he asked her why she didn't want to stay at her family's house anymore. After explaining to him the entire story, he honestly wasn't shocked. He said one time his friend went to learn about demons from a demon with him. So they went to go learn about demons from a demon himself. And he said that the demon, for some reason, the boyfriend is telling her that this demon wanted to see a picture of him and his entire family. So he showed the demon a picture. So Perry happened to be in that picture that the boyfriend showed the demon. And immediately he showed interest in Perry. The demon requested to see Perry's entire family. So her boyfriend, who has many pictures of Perry's family, just showed it to the demon. The demon then asked her boyfriend if Perry's entire family were demons too. To which the boyfriend replies to the demon saying, "Nah, fam. My girlfriend and her whole entire family are in fact religious. Like religiously strong, and they're Catholics." Then the demon pointed at her aunt and said that whenever demons gather up, she's always there. And after that day at the table, he never brought up that story again. So Perry was so in shock after her boyfriend told her that story and felt the need to learn more about it. So she went to her aunt's old house, and the minute she got there, she just felt chills like just going down her spine. She said she saw several cult pictures and demonic symbols around the entire house. And yes, it was her first time in that house. As Perry and her boyfriend are exploring her aunt's house that they just broke into, out of nowhere, as if she is everywhere, the aunt appears and kicks them out. And mind you, before she appeared to kick them out, they looked all over the house. There was no one home. As they were there, they didn't hear the front door open, nothing. So where did this lady come from? She and her boyfriend leaves and heads to her house. And to her surprise, when she gets to her mother's house, who is standing right there at the front door, it is no other than her aunt. Perry was like, is she seriously everywhere I go? Her boyfriend was genuinely surprised. She told her parents to call a priest. However, her parents didn't think that was necessary. What they discovered about the aunt when the priest got there was truly horrifying. Now, I know you guys hate part 2s, I know. And sometimes I leave y'all hanging, but not this time. I'm going to drop the part 2. Make sure you like, leave a comment. Oh, and follow me on Instagram. Thank you. All right, y'all. I'll see you guys in part 2.